You were a genius once. You lived in the forest, you hung out with your crew, you ate whatever looked good, you slept when you wanted, and nobody could make you fill out a form. That was 300,000 years ago. Things went downhill fast. And if you want to understand how we traded that simple life for existential dread and tax brackets, you definitely want to stick around for this whole story. Subscribe right now so you never miss another deep dive into our collective madness. Trust me, it only gets weirder from here. Okay, here's the thing. Humans aren't the strongest animal. We're not the fastest. We don't have claws. We don't have venom. We can't even see that well in the dark. A house cat would genuinely beat most of us in a fair fight. So how did we end up running the entire planet? How did one medium-sized primate with bad knees and worse eyesight build skyscrapers, launch satellites, and invent something called a mortgage? That's the question. And the answer is insane. Let's go back. Way back. Like, embarrassingly back. About 6 million years ago, a branch of primates in Africa started doing something weird. They started walking upright. Nobody asked them to. Nobody told them it was a good idea. And honestly, it's not that good of an idea. Our backs still hate it. Every chiropractor on Earth will confirm this. But it freed up our hands, and free hands meant tools, and tools meant everything. For millions of years, though, we're still just animals. Smart animals. Animals that occasionally hit rocks together to make sharper rocks. We're not writing poetry yet. We're not filing taxes. We're barely even talking. Wah. Then something happened around 70,000 years ago. Scientists call it the cognitive revolution, which sounds extremely fancy, but basically means our brains suddenly got really good at one very specific thing. Making stuff up. Wait, stay with me. This is actually the most important thing in this entire video. See, every animal can communicate facts. A monkey can scream, "There's a snake over there." That's real, that's useful, that's great. But humans started doing something different. We started talking about things that don't exist. Things like, what if we all agreed that this random rock has magical powers? Or what if we said that anyone born into this specific family gets to be in charge forever? Or, and this one really took off, what if I give you a piece of metal and you give me a chicken, and we just agree that the metal is worth the chicken even though you can't eat the metal? And that's fiction. And fiction is a superpower. Because here's the thing. You can't get a chimpanzee to storm a castle by promising him paradise in the afterlife. You just can't. A chimp operates on reality. Chimps are sane in a way that humans simply are not. And that's why chimps didn't build Rome. We did. Because we could get millions of strangers to cooperate on the basis of shared stories. Religions, nations, laws, money, none of which exist in the physical world, but all of which are real enough that people will die for them. That cognitive leap? That's the software update that changes everything. Think of it like this. Before 70,000 years ago, humanity is running on version 1.0. Basic operating system. Runs fine. Doesn't crash. Doesn't do much either. Then suddenly, someone installs an update that nobody quite understands. The system restarts, and now we can imagine dragons, organize armies, and argue on the internet about whether a dress is blue or gold. We are the only animal that lives partly inside a world we invented in our own heads. And almost everything that happens next in history, every war, every religion, every empire, every stock market, is a consequence of that one deeply weird fact. So now we've got brains that can cooperate at massive scale using shared stories. What do we do with this upgrade? N. For about 60,000 years, honestly. N. Not that much. We're still hunter-gatherers. We're still moving around, following the food, living in small bands of maybe 50 to 150 people. We cross into Europe. We reach Australia. We walk across a frozen strip of land into the Americas. We spread across the entire planet like a very slow, very dangerous virus. And here's the part nobody tells you in school. These people were not primitive. They weren't dumb cavemen grunting at fire. A hunter-gatherer 30,000 years ago knew the name, behavior, seasonal pattern, and edible parts of probably 200 different plant species. They could track an animal for 3 days across terrain that would kill most of us in an afternoon. They worked maybe 4 to 6 hours a day, had rich social lives, and spent the rest of their time doing basically whatever they wanted. The original work-life balance. Then, around 12,000 years ago, someone had an idea. And it ruined everything. Plant a seed. Come back later. Get food. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the trouble starts. Agriculture. Sounds like progress, right? Sounds like the moment humanity levels up. Fewer predators, more food, settled communities, civilization on the horizon. The story we've been told our whole lives is humans discovered farming, and everything got better. Except, and this is the part that should make you put down your phone and stare at the ceiling, everything got worse. At least at first. Like, measurably, biologically, undeniably worse. Skeletal remains from early farming communities show shorter people, or disease, or malnutrition, or evidence of back problems, joint damage, and repetitive strain injuries from doing the same grinding, harvesting, planting motions day after day. Hunter-gatherers were eating a diverse diet of dozens of different foods. Early farmers were basically eating wheat. Just wheat. All the time. Wheat for breakfast, wheat for lunch, wheat for dinner, and then dying at 35. So here's the question nobody asks. Why did we keep doing it? And here's the answer that will rewire your brain a little. We didn't choose agriculture. Agriculture chose us. Yuval Noah Harari, shout out to the guy who made history feel like a thriller novel, made this point beautifully. Wheat didn't get domesticated by humans. Wheat domesticated humans. Before agriculture, wheat was one obscure grass growing in a small region of the Middle East. Wow. Today, it covers 870,000 square miles of the Earth's surface. Wheat. Wheat is one of the most successful organisms in the history of life on this planet, and it got there by making us do all the work. We clear land for it. We water it. We kill anything that tries to eat it. We've spent 10,000 years as unpaid interns for a grass. That's not progress. That's a trap we walked into because in the short term, yes, farming a field near a river produces more calories per acre than roaming the forest. And more calories meant more kids. And more kids meant you couldn't leave. Because you can't pick up your farm and migrate. You're stuck. The farm owns you now. But, okay, fine. We're stuck. We've got wheat. Now what? And surplus. That's what. When you grow more food than you need, stuff starts to get complicated fast. Suddenly, you need someone to store it. Someone to guard it. Someone to count it and decide who gets how much. And before you know it, you've invented hierarchy. You've invented bureaucracy. You've invented the incredibly fun concept of some people doing all the work, while other people manage the people doing all the work and get more of the food in exchange for the managing. Agriculture didn't just change what we ate. It restructured the entire way humans relate to each other. It made inequality possible on a scale that simply didn't exist when everyone was nomadic and owned basically nothing. When you're a hunter-gatherer, there's not much to hoard. When you're a farmer with a granary, suddenly power looks like whoever controls the grain. And so, almost inevitably, you get the first cities. Çatalhöyük in Turkey, Uruk in Mesopotamia, cities in the Indus Valley, along the Yellow River in China, in the Nile Delta in Egypt. Humans clustering together in numbers we'd never lived in before. Tens of thousands of people in one place, which creates problems nobody had ever faced before. How do you coordinate this many strangers? And How do you stop them from killing each other over whose grain is whose? You need rules. You need shared beliefs. You need, in other words, civilization, which is just a fancy way of saying the agreements that make it possible for you to live next to someone you've never met without everything devolving into chaos immediately. And this is where those big shared fictions we talked about in part 1 really go to work. Religion scales up from local spirits and rituals into massive organized systems that explain why the universe exists, who deserves power, and what happens after you die, all in one package. That's an incredible product. No wonder it spread. Empires rise on the backs of religion, military force, and something even more powerful than both of those combined. Wah! Money. Okay, stop. Because money is actually the most mind-bending invention in human history, and we just accept it like it's totally normal. You go to work. You move numbers around on a screen, or lift boxes, or write code, or teach children, or cook food. And in exchange, someone gives you little pieces of paper, or really just updates a number in a database, and you then exchange that number for actual physical things you need to survive. This whole system works because everybody, everywhere, agrees to believe in it simultaneously. The second enough people stop believing, the whole thing collapses. Every economic crisis in history is basically just a crisis of collective belief. Money is a religion that everyone on Earth accidentally joined. The first money-like systems showed up around 5,000 years ago. Grain receipts in Mesopotamia, metal coins in Lydia around 600 BCE. And almost immediately, money does what surplus did on a smaller scale. It concentrates power. It lets empires function across vast distances, because now you don't have to haul grain from one end of your territory to the other. You just move the number, and here is the awe moment. The one that should genuinely make you stop and go. Wait! Every empire. Every religion. Every nation. Every currency. Every law. All of it. Every single structure that organizes human society is built entirely on the shared belief of strangers. Not on physics. Not on biology. Not on anything that would exist if all the humans disappeared. Rome wasn't real the way a rock is real. The US dollar isn't real the way water is real. They're real because we agree they are. Collectively. Constantly. Every single day. We are 8 billion people running a shared simulation, and the simulation is load-bearing. If you opt out, the simulation doesn't end, you just get arrested. That's civilization. That's what we built. And we were just getting started. For most of human history, life runs on muscle. Human muscle, animal muscle. That's it. You want to move something? You pick it up. You want to grow something? You dig with your hands or you use an ox. You want to send a message to someone 500 miles away? You put it on a horse and hope for the best. The speed of information, the speed of transport, the speed of everything, for 10,000 years, it's all capped by how fast a living body can move. And then, in the late 1700s in England, someone looks at a pot of boiling water and thinks, what if that steam did the work instead of me? The steam engine. Which sounds boring until you realize it is literally the moment human civilization hits a warp drive. In the 200 years after the Industrial Revolution, human population goes from about 1 billion to over 6 billion. Life expectancy roughly doubles. We go from horses to cars to airplanes to rockets within 150 years. We harness electricity. We split the atom. We build weapons capable of ending our species and then have a decades-long standoff where we all just agree not to use them, which honestly, at this point in the video, you understand is very on-brand for us. Shared fiction, extremely high stakes. But here's the twist that nobody talks about enough. The Industrial Revolution doesn't just change technology. It changes humans. It changes what a day feels like. For the vast majority of human existence, people's lives had rhythms. Seasons. Harvests. Festivals. Sunrise and sunset. Your great-great-great-grandmother in 1200 CE worked hard, yes, but her sense of time was organic, tied to the world around her. The Industrial Revolution drags humans into factories and puts them on clocks. You don't work until the field is done. You work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then you go home, and then you come back tomorrow. The factory doesn't care about your harvest cycle. The factory has a production quota. You are now a component. And we never really recovered from that, by the way. The 9 to 5 is not natural. It's a leftover piece of factory scheduling that we've been dragging around like emotional baggage for 200 years. Okay, but fine. Factories, mass production, global trade, 2 world wars that killed somewhere around 85 million people and also somehow produced the fastest acceleration in science and technology in human history. Because nothing makes humans innovate faster than trying to kill each other more efficiently. We get penicillin. We get radar. We get computers. We get the internet. And the internet is where this story takes its final, deeply weird turn. For all of human history, information moves at the speed of a person. News of a battle takes days or weeks to travel. A new idea has to be carried by a human, copied by hand, read by someone who then tells someone else. Even after the printing press, which is its own revolution, absolutely wild invention, 15th century Johannes Gutenberg quietly changes the world. Information still has weight. It takes time. It has physical form. Books exist. Documents exist. Then in the 1990s, we dissolve all of that. Information becomes weightless, instantaneous, and infinite. You can access basically the sum total of human knowledge from a device in your pocket that also lets you order pizza and watch someone's cat be surprised by a cucumber. Which sounds like utopia. Unlimited access to everything humanity has ever learned. The dream of every library, every university, every human who ever wanted to know more finally realized. And instead, we mostly use it to argue with strangers and feel bad about ourselves. Here's why. Our brains are still the same brains that evolved for small tribes of 50 to 150 people. We evolved to track social status, to monitor threats, to pay attention to danger. And now we've handed those same brains a fire hose of information that includes everyone's highlight reel, outrage bait, 24-hour news cycles, and algorithmic feeds specifically engineered to keep us scrolling by triggering the exact anxiety responses our ancient brains use to detect predators. We went from there might be a lion in those bushes to there might be a catastrophic event in this notification. And our nervous systems literally cannot tell the difference. We went from gathering berries in a forest to doom scrolling at 2 a.m. and feeling vaguely guilty about it. And somewhere in the distance, the ghost of a hunter-gatherer who worked 5 hours a day and knew the name of every star in the sky is shaking his head very slowly. So here's the big picture. We started as one animal among many, with nothing special except a brain that got a little too creative. We invented language, then stories, then gods and empires and money and science and the internet. All of it, every single piece, built on our ability to get millions of strangers to believe the same things at the same time. That is the whole trick. That is the entire history of humanity compressed into one sentence. And we're still doing it. Right now. You watching this, me making this, this is it. This is humans doing the thing that humans do. Sharing a story. Building something in the space between minds. Which brings us to the one question we genuinely cannot answer yet. We know how we got here, but we have absolutely no idea where we're going. We've built systems so complex, economic, ecological, technological, that no single human being, and arguably no group of human beings, fully understands them anymore. We are, as a civilization, operating things we can no longer entirely comprehend. And the next update to this story, AI, bioengineering, climate, whatever comes after the internet, might change what it means to be human as dramatically as agriculture changed what it meant to be a hunter-gatherer. The monkey planted a seed. The seed became the world. And somewhere out there, right now, someone is planting the next one. We just don't know what it grows into. So, let's be honest. If you had a time machine, would you trade our high-tech, anxiety-ridden civilization to go back to being a hunter-gatherer who only works 4 hours a day? Or is the internet actually worth the existential dread? And tell me your thoughts in the comments below, because I genuinely want to know where you draw the line. And if you enjoyed this journey through our collective delusion, subscribe for more videos just like this one. We've got a lot more history to unpack.